What if the universal truths you live by today were actually just the desperate survival tactics of deeply depressed ancient men? We call them intellectual gods, the revered architects of modern civilization. But behind the magnificent philosophies we worship lies a cold historical reality. They weren't building systems for society. They were mapping an escape route just to keep themselves from succumbing to absolute despair. Let's dismantle the comforting illusions of history and step into the minds of the loneliest thinkers to ever walk the earth. Modern society often dismisses anxiety and depression as a digital age byproduct, a structural flaw of our hyper-connected world. Yet, over 2 millennia ago, Aristotle observed a baffling psychological paradox. Why is it that all men who have excelled in philosophy, poetry, or the arts are quite obviously melancholic? To understand this, we must draw a brutal line between clinical psychosis and existential dread. Psychosis is a chaotic, unstructured delusion, a terrifying state where the mind completely loses its anchor to reality, drowning in an inexplicable panic. Existential dread, however, is something entirely different. When acute depression strikes a philosopher, it does not destroy their intellect. It acts as a clinical scalpel. It brutally strips away the comforting illusions that allow ordinary people to sleep soundly at night. The average person is easily anesthetized by social validation, material accumulation, or societal status. But the depressed, anxious mind sees the universe completely naked, hollow, indifferent, and fundamentally chaotic. The only thing separating these thinkers from absolute madness, brutal, unforgiving, systemic logic, they use disciplined reason to build an impenetrable fortress of language directly over the mouth of the abyss, purely so they wouldn't fall in. We are conditioned to believe that history's greatest philosophies were born in the quiet, peaceful sanctuaries of academic libraries. They weren't. They were distilled in the darkest corners of human experience, serving as raw psychological countermeasures to imminent doom. Take Marcus Aurelius, the Emperor of Rome. His personal journal, known today as Meditations, was never meant for public eyes. It was written in cold military tents on the freezing frontiers of the empire, surrounded by war and a devastating plague. He was talking his own soul through the depths of absolute exhaustion. Stoicism wasn't an academic theory. It was an emergency anti-anxiety medication forged through rigid self-talk. Or Boethius, who wrote his masterpiece, The Consolation of Philosophy, inside a damp, terrifying prison cell. He wasn't casually daydreaming, he was awaiting a gruesome execution. His imaginary dialogue with Lady Philosophy was a desperate psychological anchor, a final attempt to slow down his racing heartbeat before his life was taken. Søren Kierkegaard openly confessed that his entire life was paralyzed by a hereditary crushing melancholy. Meanwhile, Nietzsche spent his existence in absolute social exile, plagued by chronic, blinding migraines before inevitably collapsing into permanent catatonic madness. You are not reading academic doctrines. You are consuming the psychiatric records of history's most isolated souls. You are drinking a cognitive sedative brewed thousands of years ago, designed by the broken to ensure they survived the night. This brings us to a profound circular paradox, the chronological relay of human suffering. The fundamental architecture of our psychological pain has remained entirely unchanged for thousands of years. The hollow isolation you feel staring at your ceiling at 3 a.m., the paralyzing dread of your own mortality, the exhausting search for an inherent meaning is the exact same agony felt by minds long turned to dust. When a mind collapses into depression, it initially becomes trapped in a loop of passivity, daydreaming, seeking cognitive escape through a single desperate question: what if? What if everything I do is completely futile? What if society is just a collective delusion? But within that terrifying descent lies a dark, exclusive privilege. The depressed mind possesses a rare, unfiltered clarity. It sees the world completely stripped of its performative social masks. When money, praise, and societal gains lose their transactional value in your eyes, you are dragged down to absolute ground zero. And ground zero is the exact coordinate where pure, uncompromising truth is born. If that mental chaos is not left to drown you, if it is stress-tested, structured with logic, and carved into a discipline, it ceases to be a paralyzing illness. It transforms into a permanent roadmap. It becomes a lighthouse built at the bottom of the ocean, waiting for the next generation lost in the exact same storm. The axioms of ancient thinkers survive today, not because they are mathematically flawless formulas, but because they were stress-tested in the ultimate crucible of human despair. So when anxiety and existential dread knock on your door tonight, remember that you have just been handed the exact same baton. The question is, will you let yourself drown in the dark, or will you start building your own fortress of logic? Map your darkness. Leave your thoughts below. I am your partner at Codex Obscura, and I will see you in the next chapter of The Unknown.